Welcome to our channel. Here, you'll discover the most captivating stories from the Bible, told in an engaging way to inspire your faith and reflect on life's greatest lessons. Let's begin.
Imagine a sunny hillside, covered with green grass, with a gentle breeze blowing softly as a crowd gathers. Men, women, children, all there, coming from different parts of the region, eager to hear the words of a man who was transforming everything around him. That man was Jesus. The Sermon on the Mount, considered one of the most powerful moments of his ministry, takes place in this simple but deeply significant setting. Instead of seeking temples or palaces, Jesus chooses the mountains of Galilee, out in the open, as his pulpit. There, with no barriers, his voice reaches the crowd. But what makes this moment so special? Jesus wasn't speaking only to that generation, he was speaking to all times, including ours. His words transcended boundaries and still resonate today, offering a new way of seeing the world and living in it. What Jesus was about to say on that mountain wasn't just a message for scholars or the powerful, but for everyone, for the simple fisherman, the common worker, those searching for hope. And in his words, we find teachings that would change the course of human history forever. It is in this context of simplicity and depth that the Sermon on the Mount begins, a revolutionary teaching that echoes through the ages. And then, Jesus begins with words that surprise everyone. Blessed are, not for those with wealth or power, but for the poor in spirit, the mourners, the meek. He starts painting a radically different vision of happiness and fulfillment. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Jesus is saying that true riches don't come from what we can accumulate but from the humility of recognizing our need for God. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. He speaks directly to the broken-hearted, to those who suffer and find life difficult. The promise of divine comfort is certain, even amidst the pain. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. This goes against all expectations of what it means to be strong in the world. Jesus exalts meekness, a controlled power, a strength that comes from inner peace and trust in God. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. The righteousness here is not just about human laws, but a deeper justice, the pursuit of a better, more just world where love prevails. Each of these blessings turns upside down the values the world typically exalts. Instead of success, power, and self-sufficiency, Jesus elevates humility, suffering, and the pursuit of righteousness. He invites us to see life in a new way, to place our trust not in what we can achieve, but in the goodness of God and the hope of the kingdom He is building. And with each word, those who listened on that mountain, and we who listen today, are led to reflect, where is true happiness found? In what the world offers, or in the promises of the kingdom of heaven? And then, Jesus looks at the crowd with deep intention and says, "You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world." These words seem simple, but they carry profound meaning. What does salt do? It preserves, it gives flavor. So, Jesus is saying that his followers have a mission, to preserve what is good, spread the truth, and bring meaning to the world around them. But if salt loses its saltiness, Jesus asks, what good is it? The challenge here is clear. As Christians, we must maintain our essence, our identity, and not conform to the world's values. And then he says, you are the light of the world. A light isn't hidden, it isn't placed under a bowl, but on a stand, so it gives light to everyone. Jesus is calling his disciples to be visible, not to hide, but to shine in the darkness around them with their actions, their words, and their lives. When the world is lost in confusion or injustice, his followers are to reflect something greater, pointing to God's truth and goodness. Being salt and light means having responsibility. It's not just about living for yourself, but about being a transformative presence wherever you are. Just as salt transforms food and light dispels darkness, Jesus' disciples are called to transform the environment around them, bringing life and hope. But this isn't an easy task. Being salt means being different, and being light means being willing to shine in dark places. It's a call to make a difference, no matter how small or insignificant it may seem, because every act of kindness and truth shines like a flame in the world. And then, Jesus takes his teaching a step further. He says, "You have heard that it was said, 'Love your neighbor and hate your enemy.' But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." For many, these words must have been shocking. How can we love those who hurt us? How can we pray for those who wrong us? But Jesus was revealing the true meaning of love, a love that goes beyond the natural, beyond what's expected. A love that isn't limited to those who do us good but transcends grudges and revenge. Loving your neighbor was already a well-known commandment, but now he expands this love to include even those we would naturally consider our enemies. Loving those who hate us, those who speak against us, those who harm us, this requires a deep change in our hearts. It's not a love that comes from emotion, but from a choice to reflect God's character. He continues, "If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Don't even tax collectors do the same?" In other words, loving those who love us is easy, it's natural. But Jesus challenges us to something greater, to an unconditional love, like the love God has for us, a love that extends grace even when it's undeserved. And by praying for those who persecute us, Jesus teaches us to replace hatred with intercession. This changes our hearts. Instead of holding on to bitterness, he invites us to surrender it to God, asking not for revenge but for transformation and reconciliation. Loving enemies doesn't mean accepting injustices, but breaking the cycle of hatred and violence, bringing light where there is darkness. It's a difficult lesson, but a powerful one. It's an invitation to live love in a way the world doesn't understand, but that changes lives and brings true peace. And then, Jesus closes his teaching with both a warning and a promise. Those who hear his words and put them into practice are like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, yet it did not fall, because it had its foundation on the rock. Here, he leaves us with a clear truth: living according to his teachings doesn't exempt us from life's storms. They will come. But if our lives are built on the solid foundation of his words, we will stand firm, unshaken, even in the face of adversity. It's as if Jesus is saying, "I don't promise a life without challenges, but I promise that if you build your life on the solid foundation of my teachings, you will have the strength to face anything." The Sermon on the Mount isn't just a collection of beautiful thoughts or moral sayings. It's an invitation to a transformed life, a journey toward true happiness, unconditional love, and trust in God. And today, these words still echo, offering direction and hope, just as they did on that mountain 2,000 years ago. So, we are invited to reflect: are we building our lives on the firm foundation of Christ's teachings? Are we living the call to be salt, light, and to love, even our enemies? May these words find a place in our hearts and help us live with purpose and courage. If you enjoyed this reflection, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming videos. Let's continue this journey together, exploring more of Jesus' teachings and applying them to our daily lives. See you next time.